Hello, Florida fans. We are mid Florida week. This is Cody with F is for Fanatics. We are talking Florida football. So, today, does Florida fans need to pump the brakes a little bit? And what do I mean by that? So, do we need to pump the brakes on expectations? I get the Gator standard, right? Okay. I'm not saying Florida shouldn't have the Gator standard, but this isn't the Gators of the old. This isn't the Urban Meyer Gators. This isn't the Steve Spurrier Gators. This isn't Natty or Nothing Gators. Okay. I think a lot of people get confused on the expectations and kind of how college football has changed. You know, I think there was a lot of people, including me, that wanted Dan Mullen to work because he was a Urban Meyer guy. And I wasn't a Florida fan when Florida was winning all those national championships. I became a Florida fan. A little bit about my background: I was in the Marine Corps, and I loved college football my whole life. My dad's a University of Wisconsin fan and a graduate from there. He had the opportunity to play golf there, ended up turning it down, and went into the Air Force. And but always college football was always on in my house. And one of my good friends from the Marine Corps was a big diehard Florida fan. Took me down to Gainesville. I fell in love with the University of Florida. After that, I started watching the University of Florida. That was in 2000 and 2012. So McEwen era, we weren't we weren't winning a bunch of games then. So I wasn't there during the whole Tim Tebow, Chris Leak national title run. I the best years of my Florida experience was the Trask, Pitts, Tony run, the 2 years that Mullen had that offense run on all cylinders, and the defense kind of cost us uh uh Grantham kind of cost us a national title, I feel like. Well, Mullen did too because he didn't fire him, but that's besides the point. But do Florida fans need to pump the brakes a little bit? Because did Dan Mullen leave this program worse off than what we think? And I think he did. I think he left the program in a terrible situation with high school coaches. I think he left the program in a terrible situation with high school recruits, and I think he left the program in a terrible situation with just the players itself. It's been said it was very lackadaisical, that the players kind of did what they wanted, and you can't have a program like that. You have to have. I can't say you can't run it like a military. There's two types of coaches. There's definitely player coaches, and there's coaches like Saban that they do run it like a military. Um, but there is a reason why Dan Mullen couldn't recruit from IMG, and he was kind of shut out of certain high schools because the coaches didn't like him. And I think Napier has proven that he can get into those high schools and he can recruit in those high schools. And I think he's done a darn good job of recruiting. And everybody can say, yeah, well, he lost to Vandy, and you know, the play calling wasn't good this year. Look, I hate the Henderson screen pass as much as everybody. I get it. I get it. I could if that play gets if Billy Napier watches this and says, "Hey, yeah, that wasn't a great play. We're going to throw that one out." Great. Cool. That play was terrible. And to throw it over and over and over again. But as a Florida fan, I think we need to pump the brakes because here's the reason. We've been out recruited for the last 10 years by Georgia, by Alabama, by Clemson, by Texas A&M, now Miami, and you can and now we have to deal with NIL. And NIL is tough. And you know, I don't even want to get into the Rashada deal, but that kid's not worth 13 million. I mean, if you said, you know, hey Cody, who's worth 13 million? I would say, you know, can I get like can I get Trask back for, you know, does Trask have like 3 years eligibility left? We'll pay him 13 million left, but that's besides the point. But yeah, I think that people don't realize how bad this roster was when Napier inherited it. When I watched an interview with Chris Dorian, and he really I can't remember exactly what show it was on, but he really said it best. He said, you know, Florida does not have an SEC level roster depth wise. Like, yeah, they have like some good players, but depth wise, they just don't have the SEC depth. And in the SEC, you got to have elite talent 2, 3, 4 deep in every position. You know, it's we wonder, like, I think of okay, so like the Alabama game, the national championship game when Tua comes in for Hurts and wins it. That is SEC depth at quarterback. That's what Dorian's talking about. He's talking about that kind of depth because no other team has that. You know, you don't just say, you know, I have a guy that is so good that we essentially can win a national championship game with him, and he's just riding the pine. Like how often do we see that in the SEC and Alabama and Georgia where, you know, a guy gets hurt and, you know, it's just like, oh, you know, we're just gonna pull another 4 or 5 star off, and you know, he shows up in the game and you think you have it made. And next thing you know, he goes out and scores 3 touchdowns and 175 yards, and you've never even heard of him. Sorry, guys. So I think there's a lot to be said about that, about getting that SEC depth. Now, Billy Napier's recruited very well this year. I think the class was a little smaller, and yes, he whiffed on some guys. I feel like there were some guys he really whiffed on. We lost some key battles to Miami. I get that. But I feel like where Billy Napier's going to shine is his evaluation skills. I feel like that, and we've already seen it in Jakeem Jackson, where a guy is not so highly touted in 247 and on 3. And if you've seen my past, 247 is all I really look at. That's the only recruiting evaluator I look at. I don't really look at Rivals on 3, ESPN, but I feel like their evaluation is very, very good because most of our guys has gone through the roof. when they played in senior bowls and camps and all that. I feel like Billy Napier's evaluation has been very, very good. And I like that. That's how you find guys that nobody's going after that turns into guys that can be 5 stars that you don't have to necessarily court like 5 stars. And I like that. Because the 5 stars take a lot of time, they take a lot of money to fly in and kind of court and wine and dine and all that. Like, if you don't think it takes money to do all that, it takes a lot of money. And let alone the NIL money to get them to actually sign. We already saw how that was. And I just don't I don't necessarily think the Gator Collective right now is set up for that. I don't think our boosters are really set up to land the giant. Like, yeah, we'll get 1 or 2, but I don't think we're set up to like Bama to get 6, 7, 8 5 stars right now. So the evaluation process is apparent to land a good class. And Billy Napier has done that this last class. He assigned a lot of elite blue chip talent that is rising every single. It feels like every day that one of his kids is rising, and every single camp we're seeing clips of one of his kids rising. So that's good. So I just feel like that Florida fans just need to pump the brakes a little bit. I mean, we got this guy for a while. And if you guys want to say, Billy Napier, whatever, I'm sorry, the University of Florida, a I don't know what they make, $100 million program. They're not going to hire a guy that can't coach. Okay. They're not hiring a high school guy that can't coach. If you guys think that, then, just go somewhere else. I'm not going to hear it that, fire Billy Napier. Like, come on, guys. Like, let's be realistic. He can coach. If he couldn't coach, he wouldn't be at the University of Florida. All these guys can coach. If they can't coach, they don't make it D1. They don't make it Power 5. They don't make it to the SEC. Now, I'm not saying they're all successful, but they all can coach. So that's my thought on if Florida fans need to pump the brakes a little bit. I think we do. I think we need to give this guy at least 3 or 4 years. Let him build a class. Let's see what he does with his guys. I know everybody says, oh, let's see what he does with his guys and da-da-da, but let's see what he does, man. And I'm optimistic. I want to be a glass half full. Check out some of our content we're pushing out every single day. I just made a video about our schedule that's going to go out before this one. So check that out first. I'll put the link in the description of that one too. And thank you guys for checking us out. And we're just going to keep pumping this out. Hopefully the internet connection is better for this one too. Thank you. Bye-bye.